Hey everybody, Playtendoguy here, and I'm back with a brand new video. Today I'm doing something that I've been wanting to do for a little while, a collection video for a specific console. Been wanting to do a Switch one, PlayStation 1 for a little while, but I decided to start it off with the PlayStation 5 collection. So today I'm going to show you my current PS5 collection as of November 2023. So without further ado, let's get into it. So welcome back to the channel everybody, I hope you're all doing well and keeping safe, and thank you for joining me for another video. So as I said, today I'm going to be showing you my PS5 collection. I've been collecting the PS5 now for about a year now and picked up well over 30 games. PlayStation 5 games are very expensive for what they are, but thankfully when I picked up the system I got it during a Black Friday sale and a lot of games went on offer super cheap, super quickly, and I also managed to get quite a few of these through trading as well. So yeah, there's well over 35 games here, a couple of special editions as well, a good selection of games altogether. There is a few notable omissions like stuff like Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Horizon and Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. I do have those games on PS4 as I still had a PS4 at that time, so if you include those and their PS5 update counterparts that are available digitally, then my PS5 collection is probably about 50 or 60. But these are the physical PS5 games I have as of November 2023. So that's more than enough waffling. Let's dive right into things. And first up is Call of Duty Vanguard. I do like Call of Duty, it's a pretty decent little franchise, but I've gone a little bit tired of it over the years, especially now as it focuses more on like Battle Royale and less on the fun little campaigns. This one was only a tenner from Tesco, and yeah, it's fine enough. The story mode's pretty good, the multiplayer is fun, I prefer Team Deathmatch, and Zombies kind of grown tired of it, and the Battle Royale, well, I can't be bothered. My biggest problem with these Call of Duty games is that they take up so much space over the hard drive. It takes up nearly half. It's ridiculous, and it's worth it for the single player, but I don't play it anything else. But we have Saints Row. This is the Criminal Customs Edition. I do like the Saints Row games. They're pretty fun, very kooky and out there. This one's very more tame. The open world is pretty fun, but it feels very bare bones, and it feels like a game that came out about 15 years ago. It's solid, if unremarkable. We have one of the best games of last year, A Plague Tale Requiem. The original Plague Tale was one of the best AA games of the last decade. It delivered such an emotionally rich story, and this game is no different. It's highly recommended. It's always in the sale. Go and check it out. It's an absolutely beautiful and incredible game. I think I placed it in like 6 or 7 in my top 10 games of 2022. So if you haven't played this one, definitely check it out. One of my favourite games of this year is definitely one of the bigger ones, and that is Hogwarts Legacy. There's been a few Harry Potter games over the years, and they've all been rather mixed quality, but Hogwarts Legacy marks a real change. It feels like the Harry Potter game everybody really wanted, set years before the books. It follows a custom-made character that you create on their own little wizarding journey. It's just wonderful to explore Hogwarts and the surrounding open world. Thankfully, there isn't too many lessons set in Hogwarts, so you're free to explore the world. The story is nothing to write home about. It's more nostalgia than anything that really makes this game special. But if you're a Harry Potter fan, this is a fantastic game and well worth checking out. It's also one of the games that really do feel like it was made for the PlayStation 5 with lightning fast loading and really some impressive graphics. So definitely check out Hogwarts Legacy. The first physical PS5 game that I got is Sonic Frontiers. This was a big departure for Sonic, going into the real 3D open world or open zone gameplay as they call it. And you know what? I had a damn good time with it. I platinumed it in the springtime, and yeah, there's a few technical issues here, and it's not the most perfect 3D platformer, but it's a damn fine, fun one, and with all the updates that they've done, they've greatly improved the game, and I'm looking forward to see where they go with the sequel. So that's Sonic Frontiers. Next up, a game which was a bit of a sleeper hit last year, really underrated gem, and that's Evil West. Cowboys with vampires. This feels like a game that came out about 15 years ago, and you know what? It's all the better for it. The combat is punchy, the weapons are fun to use, and it's just a fun, as it is, video gamey game that you never get much of these days. No online multiplayer, no over the top DLC, just a pure single player game, and it's a lot of fun. It's creative, and it doesn't set the world alight, it doesn't reinvent things, but it's just a fun time, and sometimes you just need that. So, Evil West, if you like sort of action horror games, definitely check it out. Next up is a game that I already have for the PS4, but I decided to recently upgrade it to the PS5. It was a paid upgrade for PS4, so I thought I'll get the physical copy, and it is the best-selling game of all time, and it's the highest revenue for an entertainment product. No movie, music, item, game has ever come close to it, and yes, you've guessed it, it's GTA 5. What more can there be said? It's a truly exceptional open world game. For me, I do prefer Red Dead Redemption 2, but there's no denying how influential this game has been, and still, after 10 years, it still kind of holds up very well. But I do feel like Rockstar needs to put this to bed now and bring out GTA 6, because it is just ridiculous how many times they've re-released this game. But this PS5 upgrade is kind of minimal. The main big selling point here is that it's in 4K and at 60 FPS. And playing it in 60 FPS is pretty darn cool. If you're into the online multiplayer scene, it also has a few new extra odds and sods there. But for me, the single player is where it's all at. So that is GTA 5. One of the best games of the year, and honestly, one of the best fighters of the past 5 to 10 years, is Capcom's Street Fighter 6. With a litany of content, a really fun story player mode, great characters, some really cool fighting mechanics, and a really vibrant online scene, Capcom's latest in the Street Fighter franchise is absolutely brilliant and way better than Mortal Kombat 1, which you'll see later on. So if you haven't played this game yet, I highly recommend picking up Street Fighter 6. This is definitely in my top 10 games of the year so far. Next up is a game that I always want to get for the PS5. Really do like this series, and this looked absolutely gorgeous. And I picked it up in a Black Friday sale last year, and that's Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Honestly, beautiful game. It feels like a Pixar game, a Pixar film come to life. The graphics are outstanding, and it's just a really enjoyable, big smile on your face action platformer that unfortunately you don't get too much of. It's developed by Insomniac Games, who brought us the Spider-Man games, and they honestly have been putting out so many games on the system. They really are the jewel in the PlayStation crown at the moment. This is honestly probably my favourite PlayStation 5 exclusive. I just love it so much. Highly recommend checking it out, and yeah, it's also available on PC as well. So that's Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Next up, it's quite a controversial game when it was announced, and it is the remake, remaster, whatever you want to call it, of The Last of Us. The Last of Us is one of the best games of all time. When it came out on the PS3, I actually played it on PS4, and I was shocked by how brilliant the storytelling is, and it still holds up to this day. It's had a little bit of a graphical overhaul, and the game now runs at 60 FPS. It ditches the multiplayer mode, which is a shame, but it is a really wonderful little remake, remaster of it, and it's nice just to experience the game all over again. Is it worth 70 quid? Is it not? Is it? Fuck no. If you can pick it up for about 30 to 40 quid like I did during the Black Friday sale, then it's hardly worth picking up. It is an incredible game, and it still holds up to this day, and I do think it is better than its sequel. Another brilliant game of this year, also brought to us by Capcom, is Resident Evil 4, an incredible remake of one of the most influential video games of all time. I played the original Resident Evil 4 countless times on the Wii and the PS4, and when they announced this remake, I was like, this is going to be interesting. And yet it blows expectations out of the water. It's truly exceptional, looks amazing, delivers the scares, and there's also recently been some paid DLC come to it, so I'm looking forward to checking that one out as well. This edition I got from Argos, and it comes with this cool lenticular sleeve as well. So that's Resident Evil 4. Another brilliant game of this year that came out in the summer, and it is Final Fantasy 16. Really did enjoy Final Fantasy 15. I know a lot of fans were a little bit cold on it, but I thought it was quite good. This one goes for a more action approach, feeling more like a Devil May Cry action game than a traditional RPG, but wow, what an amazing visual display this is. Feeling like a really sweeping epic, something in the lines of Game of Thrones. The action is visceral, the story is fantastic, and it's edgy your seat stuff. The story is a little bit linear compared to other Final Fantasy games, but for what it is, I think it's fantastic. And it's a shame that the game hasn't really sold as well as it should have done. I've heard that it's lost a little bit of money, but hopefully over the years it will make it back. It's a brilliant game, so check out Final Fantasy 16. Continuing on the lines of Final Fantasy, we have Final Fantasy 7 Reunion Crisis Core, which is a remake of the PSP game Final Fantasy Crisis Core, which is like a spin-off the Final Fantasy 7 sub-series. As we wait for the second part of the remake, this really did tide us over with a quite a palpable remake. Whilst it's not incredible graphics that feel native to the PS5, it still looks really good and it runs very well at 60 FPS, and the combat is great, and there's some really cool little missions in it. Ideally, it probably would have felt better to play it on the Switch, but this PS5 port is still a cracker. I've got another Final Fantasy game here. I haven't actually played this one yet. I picked it up in sale for about 15 quid and it's still sealed. And this Stranger Paradise Final Fantasy Origins. I think this takes place during the original Final Fantasy that came out on the NES years ago, but it's more of a Dark Souls-like game. Don't know too much about it, but it looks like a fun game. It's supposed to be quite brutal as well in its difficulty, so look forward to checking that one out. Another game here that is sealed, but I've actually got it digitally. I got it with my PS5, but I found it in my local Tesco, reduced to clear to 15 quid. And as I'm a big fan of physical game copies, especially in an era where they're trying to push for an all-digital future, I do believe that it's of great importance to buy physical to preserve it, because one day these games could be lost to time. So that is God of War Ragnarok. Did play this last year, absolutely loved it. I don't think it's as good as the first one. I think, like with most PlayStation 5 sequels to PS4 games, they haven't been as good as the originals, but still a really good game with a great story, and there's no denying that the combat and the exploration loop is addicting as heck. So yeah, that is the physical copy of it. Highly recommend getting this one. This is definitely up there as one of the best PS5 exclusives, even though you can still pick it up on PS4. So that's God of War Ragnarok. Next up is one of the best looking games on the system, and I'm not the hugest into like pure like driving simulating games. I'm more of an arcade racer, but there's no denying how brilliant this game is, and that's Gran Turismo 7. This game is a pure visual spectacle. How the cars looks insane. The tracks look incredible. With over 400 cars, constant free updates, it is a truly spectacular experience if you're a petrol head. My only real problem with it is that it is an always online experience and you've always got to be connected to the internet. So there's going to be a worry that when they turn off the servers, you may not be able to play this game. But as it is now, if you can find it for about 30 to 40 quid, I definitely would pick up Gran Turismo 7. It is an absolutely spectacular racing experience. Next up is quite an underrated little exclusive for the PS5, but it is also now available on the Xbox Series through Game Pass, and that's Ghostwire Tokyo. It's a supernatural horror ghost game with an open world setting. It feels a bit like a Yakuza game, but with a first-person sort of shooter feel. You fire all these like magic projectiles, and it kind of makes you look like Doctor Strange. It's really cool and unique, and honestly, for its 12 plus rating, this game is absolutely terrifying. The amount of unsettlingness it delivers is unbelievable. Tango Gameworks, the developer behind this, did do The Evil Within, which was more like a grotesque sort of horror with a lot of blood and gore, but this one is very supernatural and it definitely does get under your skin. Highly recommended. Quite a short game as well, at only about 8 to 10 hours, so highly recommend giving Ghostwire Tokyo a go. It's one of the most unique games out there and unfortunately flopped hard. Next up is the next entry into the Yakuza series, though they've renamed it now Like a Dragon, which is kind of a bit odd because I'm so used to calling it the Yakuza series, but it is Like a Dragon Ishin. Big fan of the Yakuza games. I think they're some of the best out there, with great story, really fun side contents, and some of the best mini games in the business. Whenever you buy a Yakuza game, you know you're buying quality, as you're always getting a lengthy adventure for the money. This one's set in feudal Japan, sort of focusing on like samurai combat with swords, whereas the normal Yakuza games is more like bare knuckles fisticuffs. There's a really good tale here, and whilst the graphics aren't amazing because it is just a remake of a PS3 game, it's still great to see this game finally get released in the West. Continuing on, we have another racing game, and this was again one of the more underrated games of last year. It came and went like a fart in the wind, and nobody really talks about it, and it's a shame. And that's Need for Speed Unbound. It definitely does have that street vibe to it. You've got some rapper here called ASAP Rocky. Haven't got a clue who the heck he is, but he's quite prominent in it. And whilst I have no interest in that, and the music within it is a really solid open world racer, kind of feels very similar to how Need for Speed used to be. It's got a really cool visual style to it with like cel shaded characters and like visual effects on cars. It really works well and it looks amazing on PS5. This game is regularly on offer, so highly recommend checking it out if you're a Need for Speed fan. It feels more close to what Need for Speed used to be. Next up is a game that I picked up really cheap from Curry's, like about a tenner, I think. And this has been much maligned by many critics, and it never did look very good. But I decided to give it a shot, and that was Gotham Knights. It's fine. It's unspectacular. It takes the Arkham City, Arkham Knight formula and puts it into like a four-player open world adventure. It's fine. It's unspectacular. It does feel like a big missed opportunity here, but there is some fun to be had. The story here is not too bad, but you could see the twist at the end coming a mile off. And actually, graphically, it does look a little bit of a mess. Arkham Knight came out 7 years before this, and it looks way better than this. Bit of a disappointment, but for a tenner, I don't mind having it in the collection. Next up is a game that I kind of was a little bit disappointed in. It's still quite a solid game, but I do prefer the original one, and that's Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Bigger and unfortunately doesn't mean better with this one. The story feels definitely middle game syndrome. It feels like it's setting up something big. When the game finally gets going, it just ends. Felt like the story mode was shorter. Whilst there was some cool moments in it, again, the twist I could see a mile off. The biggest problem with this game was at launch, it was a technical mess. Not only on PS5 but also on PC, and they had the gall to charge 70 quid for it. Thankfully, I didn't pay that much for it. I think I paid about 40 quid for it. But even then, there's no excuse for a game to come out this day and age and be 70 quid and be broken and say like, oh, we'll fix it later. Release your games properly. Release them fixed. But that is Jedi Survivor. It's a good game, but it's not as good as the original, I don't think. Next up is one of the more high-profile PS5 exclusives, and that's Returnal. It's a roguelike shooter, and it is hard as nails. I played a few hours of it, and it's really good. The combat is great, it's fast, snappy, and the story's quite intriguing, but the difficulty is absolutely brutal. Make you want to pull your hair out and swear at the screen. If you can complete this game, wow, I tip my hat to you. For me, I'm probably never going to complete it, but it's still a very good, fun game if you've got the patience to do it. Another one that's really enjoyable but also really hard is Demon Souls, one of the big first PlayStation 5 exclusives. This is a wonderful remake of the PS3 classic that led to Dark Souls, Elden Ring, and all those From Software games. The game looks absolutely outstanding and runs really well. Unfortunately, I'm absolutely awful at these soul-like games, and it is a shame because I'd love to experience more of them. I do get all of them, but unfortunately, there's always a time in the game where I just get stuck and I just cannot do it. But there's no denying that these games are brilliant, and again, one of the best PS5 exclusives. Next up is one of the most unique games on the system that is also available now on the Xbox thanks to the Xbox Bethesda merger, and it's from Arcane Studios, who brought us the absolutely wonderful Dishonored series, and that's Deathloop. One of the most supremely creative first-person shooters I have played in ages. It's basically a bit like Groundhog Day, where you play as this character and you have to go through the whole day and get this perfect loop and kill all these targets without dying. It is quite difficult at first, but as you go through the game, you get more abilities and more weapons, and you get to explore the different really substantial levels and understand the lore, the story, and characters behind it. It's a truly wonderful game and well worth picking up. This game is always dirt cheap now. I remember picking it up last year for about 17 quid. You can pick it up for £5 now, sometimes from Amazon. Check it out. Grossly underrated, and that's Deathloop. This is probably my least favourite game on the PS5. I picked this one up. I saw the trailer for it, looked pretty good, and then, yeah, it's a bit of a technical mess. It's Scars Above. It feels a little bit like Returnal, but on a budget. It has some cool ideas to it, and it looks quite nice, but unfortunately it is technically a bit of a mess. Within the first 10 minutes, I was greeted to a glitch that just crashed the game, and it happened again. Definitely made on a budget. It's fine. If you can pick it up for a tenner, give it a shot, but honestly, it is a hard recommendation, but that's Scars Above. Next up is a game that I unfortunately haven't played yet, and it came out last year, and unfortunately it was a bit of a flop. Nobody bought it. Came out in such a busy time, the same day as Final Fantasy Crisis Core and Need for Speed Unbound. It should have been a real big hit. It's a strategy RPG with the Marvel characters, and that's Marvel's Midnight Sun. Yeah, I picked this one up in the summer, managed to get it through trading, went down to about 20 quid, but I still haven't played it yet. Looks like a great game, got some great cast of Marvel characters, so look forward to giving this a go later on down the line. Next up is a game that I also haven't played. Actually, all these ones here are still sealed. A couple of them, there is a good reason why. Next up is a game that actually did come out on PS Plus, so I never actually opened this one. I did play a bit. It's fine, if unspectacular. I picked this one up for £5 from Tesco because they were clearing out their games, and for a physical copy of a PS5 game for £5, you can't really grumble. And that's Battlefield 2042. What a disaster this was. Yeah, the Battlefield series seems to be going on a downhill spiral. Ever since Battlefield 4 in 2014, the series just cannot get to its lofty heights it did with Battlefield 3. Don't know what's going on with DICE, don't know what's going on with EA, but hopefully the next Battlefield game will improve on this greatly and restore the series back to former greatness. Next up is a remake. I did play the remake to the first game and I really enjoyed it, and they released the remake of the sequel only on PS5, which was a shame. And that's Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed. Really enjoyed the first one, as I said, so looking forward to checking this one out. It's going to be like a blast from the past. More of the same. Cannot wait to check it out. We'll definitely have to give it a play soon because I've had it for a little while. So that's Destroy All Humans 2. Next up is two remasters of games that I've already played on the PS4, but I really do enjoy both these games, well technically three, and they were both really cheap in the Black Friday sale. So first up is the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection. Picked this one up for a tenner from Argos last year, and it includes Uncharted 4 A Thief's End and Uncharted The Lost Legacy. Both fantastic games, really showcase what the PS4 could do, delivering some of the best single player experiences on that system. And yeah, this has just been boosted up to 60 FPS with some new controller feedback and just bundling both the games up on one disc. It's nice to have in the collection, and I'm looking forward to replaying these games again because they are truly exceptional cinematic experiences. And next up is a game that I think is honestly one of the best games of the last generation. A lot of people hated it when it came out, and it's very mixed opinions. Some people love it, some people think it's the worst game ever. And it's Hideo Kojima's Death Stranding Director's Cut. Basically, you play as this dude in a post-apocalyptic world delivering parcels with a baby on his back. It is absolutely daft crackers. It's coming from Hideo Kojima, so what do you expect? But for me, it was just such an engrossing story. I thought the gameplay of what there was just walking about was kind of therapeutic and enthralling. And whilst this director's cut doesn't really add nothing much new, bar a couple of new missions, a re-invoked weapon system, and obviously running out at 60 FPS, I'm looking forward to replaying this one down the road as we are getting a sequel coming soon. But that's Death Stranding Director's Cut. Continuing on, I have this box set version of Dead Island 2 that I picked up recently in the sale. I've only played this a couple of times, but Dead Island 2 is an absolute blast. I think it's way more better than Dying Light 2. It's fun, it's over the top, it knows what it's doing. It isn't going to reinvent the wheel, but it's just a good fun time. And as I said, it recently went down in price. This edition comes with a cool little mini shark. I think he's pretty darn cool. He's a very interesting chap. And obviously you do get the game as well. Highly recommend picking this one up in the Black Friday sale, as I'm sure this will be going down to about 20 quid. And if you just want a gloriously daft, silly zombie slaying time, then look no further than Dead Island 2. It's surprisingly polished, and the long wait for it was well and truly worth it. So that's Dead Island 2. I got this one last year, been wanting to get it for a while. The stock has always been horrendous for this, but I managed to pick it up. And it is the Dark Pictures Anthology, Volume 2, which includes House of Ashes and The Devil in Me. These are interactive horror stories, taking around about 4 to 5 hours to complete. Very similar to stuff like Until Dawn and last year's really breakout hit, The Quarry. It's more the same, some really good tales here. You've got Jessie Buckley in one of them, who I think is a fantastic actress, so it's great to see her there. The House of Ashes is a really cool one with like a Asian vampires in it. Very creepy and some quite action-packed, that one is. This one's a limited edition which includes both games, a pack of cards, a hotel map and 2 exclusive pins. Well worth picking this one up. All the games separately, they are very fun little anthology games. And the final 2 games are 2 fairly recent ones. First up is Mortal Kombat 1. Honestly, I was a little bit disappointed with this one. It feels very bare bones, especially compared to Mortal Kombat 11. I know a lot of people said, well, the game has just come out, but even when Mortal Kombat 11 came out, there was more content in it than this. It definitely does feel like this could have done with another 6 months in the oven. There's a few technical issues, and it feels like presentation is lacking in this one quite a bit. And yeah, it just feels like another excuse to sell loads of microtransactions. Hopefully the game does improve because the fighting here is very good. The story mode's quite engaging. It feels like a solid 8 out of 10 game, but it feels like it's just so short of greatness. But that is Mortal Kombat 1. And finally is the big game of the moment for PS5. A lot of people are loving it, and that is, yes, you've guessed it, Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Currently playing through this now and I'm about 40% into it, and it's a pretty darn solid time. It's just more of the same, and to be honest, that's all it needs to be. Marvel Spider-Man was an absolute triumph when it came out in 2018, and Miles Morales was a really nice continuation. And this just sees the two Spider-Men together fighting a whole new bunch of evil villains in a gloriously stunning open world with seamless fast loading and that same great web swinging and combat action. The story's great, and I'm looking forward to playing more of it. Is it the best game of the year? Not by a mile, but it's still a very good game and will definitely probably make my top 10 game of the year just. So that's Spider-Man 2. So anyway, that's my complete PS5 collection as of November 2023. Quite a few games there, some actually really good games there. Obviously, with the PS4 games that got like updates, there's even more, but these are the solely PS5 branded games that I've got. So thanks ever so much, everybody, for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. Tell me what you think of my collection in the comments section down below, and tell me what are some of your favourite PS5 games that you've got. As always, really do appreciate you watching my video. Thanks ever so much for taking the time. You stay safe, take care, and I'll see you all on the next video. Bye.